Okay. Welcome back. It's been several months since we visited the buildings at the that was originally the Blacksmith shop and the wagon making shop on Mill Street, Eastern Avenue intersection. On our right is the Blacksmith shop, and we'll now note that we have removed about 4 to 5 feet of boards at the top near the roof. Right below the bottom board behind this would be a huge, it's approximately a 10 by 10 beam that's approximately 42 feet long, and that's basically level, and this will be the height for our rafters. And again, this gets a gable roof on it, so the rafters will rest right at the bottom of the boards there. To our left is the wagon making shop. There in the front, we have started to scrape the old paint, and it's coming off very well, just scraping it, getting ready to do some sanding now, and we'll try to, we will get this primed for the winter months. There'll be a few boards that will have to be replaced, but this is original fabric, and the siding does have these square nails in it. We've also painted the side with a primer, the boards, and these boards will have to be re-nailed, and we'll also be closing over the cracks with about a 2 3/4 inch batten that's been routed on both sides, and we hope to have this done for the winter months.
What we'll do now is we'll be going to the other side of the building. I know a lot of work has been done that people on the street wouldn't see, and that's what we're here for. So we'll be right back with bringing you information from the other side of the building.
We're now at the back of the Blacksmith shop, which was built in 1846, and it became a blacksmith shop 7 years later in 1853. We're looking at the back wall, which is in the process of being removed and replaced. First, on the fieldstone that you see here, this is, while you may think this may be the original wall, it is not. The original wall, you can see evidences of it in the beam right above the brick. There are notches in this beam, and these notches indicate that this was a wooden wall originally, and at some point early on they replaced the wooden wall with the fieldstone, and then the brick came along in 1878 when they changed the elevation of the bridge at the Mullet River, and this building was again then in a hole, so they raised the entire building up approximately 30 inches, and they did that with the brick. So you're really seeing evidences here of 3 phases of a rear wall to a building. Unfortunately, the wall is in a very bad condition now. It is deteriorating, and as with many fieldstone walls, it was wider at the base than at the top, and in the center they used very little mortar. So this wall unravels like you would find a string coming out of a sweater. And I believe you can see the rounded edge here where this has just sort of unraveled itself. To the left, you will see a new 12-inch block wall, and this was, again, an extension originally of fieldstone and brick, and this wall had absolutely unraveled itself. So the building had to be raised up on bottle jacks, like the one that you're looking at now, with huge timbers, and the whole corner was lifted up so that the old wall could be torn out safely. And what you're seeing now is the block wall that's on the west side, and right at the corner, you notice 4 courses down and 5 courses down, it doesn't quite come out to the surface. And that is because as we come along this whole south wall, we will now have a base of 12-inch block, then we'll have 6-inch block, and then there will be a 6-inch fieldstone veneer. So once we look at this wall later on, you will see a stone wall, no brick, with just one 9-foot opening in the center. All the windows and other openings here will be removed. And again, the building to the left of the brick wall that's completed, this will eventually be removed. So it just becomes a freestanding building on this. Now, if we look inside, back up just a moment, Mike, to the left of the brick and the stone wall, you will see a black metal post. This is an adjustable post at the top, and that will be built right into the wall itself. That stays. And there's already one in the west wall that you cannot see it, but it's there. And as we shift to the inside, you will see a column of two 12-inch blocks laid, which have steel in them, will be filled with concrete, and on top of that will rest the steel beams that will go under the existing wooden beams in there, and that starts the process of leveling the first floor and squaring away the buildings. Ironically enough, our elevation shots of the first floor inside indicated that 3 corners of this building were within 1/8 of an inch of each other, and it was only the northeast corner that was off higher than the others by about 1 3/4 inches. After 150 years, this is remarkably how level the corners of the buildings of this building remained.
Now, you probably, Jim, will use some of the rock that you're taking out of this wall as the veneer, so you're probably
Yes.
going to put the original rock right back against the brick.
Right. A lot of it will be, and I don't know, Mike, if you can swing the camera around, you can see our rock pile behind us. We have some beautiful rock here. The colors are really neat.
We're now looking at
Some of the debris. I don't know if you can pick that up or not.
right now we're looking at an edge of your wagon shop as we come around here, so just trying to orient people to where we are located, and now we're pulling over to where we should be able to see all of your rock and what you've taken out of the building already.
This is only one pile of the rock, so we'll have a lot to pick and choose from, but I would imagine, 150 years ago, they had pretty much their choice of rocks. They could pick and choose what they wanted to. There are some huge rocks that have come out of this foundation at the bottom. And when we did excavate, we found that they put large rocks on the bottom, no footings, and they build up from that. And, of course, over a period of time, the deterioration has just set in, which you'd expect.
Well, what we'll do now is we'll pull over behind your wagon shop. I know you've done a lot of work back there too. So the next shot you're going to see, we're going to be behind the wagon shop and see the kind of ground floor that has to be developed in order to build everything up from the foundation.
Right. Okay. We're now in back of the wagon making shop, which was built in 1874. And there's 2 phases to this building. The left side is the original wagon making shop. And then underneath where we see the post, this was an addition, we think sometime after the turn of the century. And this is sagged and the posts are weak. And what we'll be doing is replacing these posts with a 8x8 treated timber. And there will be a small walkway on the back of this building. So there will really be 12 posts that will be shown eventually. On the wall itself, you will notice some windows. There's 6 or 8 panes there. Beneath that was a large double door opening, which we now have closed up with block. And we have left the window in from an interest point of view, but also to throw some natural light into the basement area. Also in that wall, you will see little round shiny spots. These are washers and a tap screw which is holding in a mesh which is going over the wall for the purposes of putting the stucco on. The stucco will be applied in 3 applications. We've also included a service door to the back of the building, and that needs to be filled in yet. Above the door there's an opening there. This eventually, as we come to the right, the second phase of this building is somewhat of a shed roof, only 1 story high. This whole shed addition will eventually be removed and be replaced pretty much in the same, it will be in the same location. And beneath that, where we have the yellow door now, this will be a 9-foot opening in the wall. Down below here we have some of the steel beams that will go in this building to help us carry the load weights that we need for the restoration. They have merely been painted to keep the rust down at this point.
One thing to mention, Jim, is that this is no longer just a drawing on paper and a dream. You've gotten everything back from the state. Everything seems to be coming along when you talk about putting the 8x8 treated lumber or the walkway. It's that part of it can be considered finalized.
Sure. The plans have been approved by the state, and so we're into the next phase here. So that part has been solved. The beams here that you're looking at on the ground with the notches in are from the little 1-story home that was torn down to make room for the Plymouth Inn. And I worked with the contractor to have them brought across the street. I'm not quite sure how we're going to use them or where, but you will notice the as marks on them where they were squared away. And that was probably a pre-Civil War home. So these are probably virgin timbers that we're looking at here on the ground. And above the timbers, there's a small area of darkness. That's a wheelbarrow of findings that we found underneath the forge floor in the blacksmith shop, and we just merely dumped it there. It's very, very fine sand material that we're finding.
We'll probably now try to go inside the wagon shop. We've actually never taken our cameras in this. We were in the blacksmith shop. We've never been in the wagon shop. We're going to go in the basement of it first and I guess talk about, again, the foundation of this building. And then if we have a little bit of time, we'll maybe go up above and actually look inside the wagon shop.
We're now inside the wagon making shop, the original building. Again, it's 1874. We're looking at the west wall, which has now been repaired. The original wall probably was a wooden wall, and we think around the turn of the century it became a block wall. And the block they used was 24 inches long, which is unusual with today's standards. This wall, the block wall, had about a 4-inch deflection in the middle with about 1.5 inch wide crack. Very, very serious condition from a safety point of view and structurally. So what we did here is that we have poured a reinforced concrete wall against the block wall to hold it in place. Against the wall, the block wall, are 3 large I-beams, and these I-beams are welded to the angle I-beams that you now see. There's all kind of steel in the wall, gridiron. A welder spent 2 days welding before the concrete was poured. What you're looking at is a backplaster on the poured wall. This should hold the wall into place without any problems from a structural point of view. As we move to the right, we will see that the edge of the poured wall was the approximate wall, original wall, to the wagon making shop. And I don't know, Mike, if you can swing up just a little bit and pick up the white marks in the ceiling. That was the back wall of the wagon making shop originally. and this is masonry stains that are there. The front part of the building was a fieldstone, and the fieldstone, again, the mortar has deteriorated, and we pulled a lot of that out, and we now have replaced that, so that strengthens this whole front wall, the front part of the building. We will have here, when we're through, two large beams going across this building that you saw outside, and in between those will be welded to smaller beams. Again, if you note here, this building was again raised as the blacksmith shop was in 1878, even though it was only 4 years old, to accommodate the grade differential that was brought about by raising the bridge level over the mullet. We have, as we look at the ceiling here, we will be seeing some very serious structural problems. And again, this problem has been brought about to a large extent by the amount of water entering the center of the building, coming down, and rotting everything that's in its way. You'll see a number of temporary beams that's holding up the floor. And below this, you will see what we call cribbing, which we will be using, on which bottle jacks are placed and other beams that will eventually jack this building back up on a level. And then that will be supported with permanent post or block piers, whatever we choose to use that would carry that load capacity. Then all these extra posts that we're looking at will all be removed. Some of the timbers that we're using for cribbing are 6 by 14 timbers, and some of them are 12 by 14 timbers. And eventually we'll pour a new floor over the whole floor to replace this cracked floor that's sunken over a period of time. We're now looking at the interior wall between the original building and the addition. And again, here you can see the 24-inch block, which is unusual. And this wall's, again, structurally in good shape. And we feel a corner in the back here, while it's fieldstone. We know it was used for a coal storage area for a while because we found all kind of coal and coal dust here. It may have also, this corner may have also been used as some form of cistern, in as much as I have found a galvanized pipe through this thick fieldstone wall. And that's normally a sign that a cistern was in existence, and especially since this was an outside wall at one time.
What we'll do now, Jim, is we'll kind of wrap up this little segment by giving everybody a look inside the wagon shop briefly, and we'll then come back at some point and pick up restoration as things continue. But right now we're just going to take a break, move upstairs to the upstairs of the wagon shop, and just have a look around there.
Okay. We're now upstairs in the wagon making shop looking at the southwest corner, and you will note a staircase to the second floor. The new staircase will be in its approximate location, and there will also be another one on the west wall to meet the code requirements. You will note as we swing through here that the walls are 2x6, full 2x6 material, and they are approximately 20 feet long, and it's what we call balloon construction, which was very popular in the late 1800s. Unfortunately, they became fire traps because there was no fire stops between the first and second floor. We will keep the timbers in place, but we'll certainly put the fire stops in. In the background here, you'll see some of our work area inside. We are making the battens to cover the boards on the outside, and I think I figured that we will need, that we have already routed out something like 1.5 miles of lumber for these battens. So they have not just a square projection on them, but rather they have a little detail. And that detail is time consuming, and we have now sealed the knots and we'll be priming them. And so when we're ready for them on the outside, this will go up very quickly because of our work that we're doing. As we look upward, you can see some of the damages that have been caused by water entering the building. It is really has been disastrous. And as you can still see through the opening here that the 2x6 timbers the outside. As we focus downward toward the floor, you will see that opening that we just got through looking upstairs from the basement level. And in the background, you will see the reinforced wall that we were talking about downstairs. Eventually, this will all be level across here. And as we swing around to our right, you're going to find, you're looking out at the street now and at the Plymouth Inn across the street. So you can get a feel of the view that eventually this shop will have. And we're hoping to have some form of a eatery in this building here. We're now going to be showing you the inside of the addition, which we feel was probably added within 10 or 15 years after the original wagon making shop was built, primarily because the addition appears to be on the 1889 plat book. This will have to be removed completely and rebuilt for several reasons. One is that the roof, when they installed it, they put the rafters on a scab piece of 2x4 across the wall, and rather than placing the rafters on the plate of the wall itself, and therefore the snow loads have cracked all the rafters, and there's really no way of repairing that short of replacing them. And by the time we work on this east wall by putting in double doors and windows, we'll just go ahead and take the whole wall down and start from scratch. We also have a rotted sill underneath, which helps make that decision a lot easier. On the floor, you will note a number of dark spots. We feel this addition was added to be a paint room for the wagon making shop, since they would want something that was somewhat free of dust and dirt. And these dark marks appear to be from where wheels were setting with the black paint. At least that's the analysis that we have of the experts that have looked at this building. We can see in the corner here, there are several signs that a fire had been in this building at one time. The building to the east was destroyed by fire. It was very close in the mid-70s, and that fire jumped from that building into this building. And probably, as you look in the corner, you'll see there are signs of fire going up along the roof. And if that fire had reached the main building here without fire stops, this building probably would have been destroyed in another 5 to 8 minutes, the way the fire must have been racing. And if you look at the one area, you can see the effectiveness of a fire stop. It is charcoal above, very charred, and that 2x4 across the wall, which was used for a nailing piece, actually served as a fire stop, and that fire did not drop down. And there's also clear evidence that it was starting to get through at the corner. So the fire stops are very, very important to it. One of the greatest fears and that the pioneer families had was fire, because there was a lot of wood burning equipment. Chimneys were not built to the same standards that we do today, and we really didn't have the equipment to fight fires that we have today. So fire is really one of the major elements that destroy historic buildings. And so as we enter the restoration phase on older buildings, we're very cognizant of that and try to build in a lot of safeguards that take away that earlier fear of fire to a large extent.
Okay, Jim, we've now seen the wagon shop along with the blacksmith shop. Things are moving along. We've looked at the foundation. We'll be back in a couple months or so to look at when the foundation has been completed and you start your renovation of the floor we're actually standing on and start leveling things out. We promise to come back and look again, Jim.
Thanks very much, Mike. Welcome back. It's been several months since we've visited the wagon shop and the blacksmith shop here on Eastern Avenue. I believe it was late September, early October. And at that point, what we're looking at was an older addition. I think we were in the process of tearing it down. The rafters from the earlier shots indicated all kind of splitting because it was never properly installed and built to begin with. So we just removed the whole addition except for the very front, which appears to be the dark color. That's the facade of the building. We had that braced, we kept that, and everything else you're looking at here, Mike, is new. And that's the finished look. It's a board and batten, and of course it's primed right now. And at the bottom you'll see a long area above the foundation that's treated lumber, and that's where the deck will come off the building. There's also a piece of plywood toward the right center. That will be a double 3-foot doors, so it'll be 6-foot openings. There'll be side lights next to that, and then a window, so that there's massive light on the east side, and the deck will come out into these pine trees with some steps down to the river itself. We're right on the edge of the river here where we're shooting this morning. Above the addition, you can see the older east wall of the main building. And of course, there'll be some repairs needed here. As we swing to our left, we have now framed in and taken out some of the rotted pieces and older doors, and we have 2 windows framed in on the first floor and 1 on the second. And on the back side of the building, the different color of wood indicates where we have replaced rotted wood. Again, on the back part, there's major damage from water from the gutter that had failed over the years, and that water was just running down the wood. We've also framed in the necessary windows on the back side and the doors. They're not necessarily cut through yet, but so we're moving right along on the exterior of the building. Shorty is replacing a light bulb, which is a temporary light for security purposes at this point.
I would guess, Jim, that all of the window openings that you have now on the older part also are going to be the exact location. You have framed everything out.
That is correct. On the west side, there are 2 openings that appear to be door openings, and those will be closed up to be windows. So, and at the bottom here, you'll see some tarps, a blue tarp, and that is around the overhang, and that's strictly from a wind protection so the men can work. And it's done a very good job. We have worked every day since the 10th of December We had about a month off for deer hunting and a few other cold periods. But they have been back since about the 10th of December, and we have worked every day except New Year's and Christmas, and one day where there was some family personal problems.
Now there's no surprises under the blue and orange tarp, is there?
No, we should take a shot in there. What we did was we leveled that. We brought it up, and we brought the far end up maybe 6 or 7 inches. So that now is level, and the permanent posts are set, and we have some of the shoulders in. Some of those, the others have been cut. They just have not been installed yet. But no surprises. We had the footings in when you were here last, or were in the process, so that was all done before the cold weather set in. So the tarps really is a windshield for the workmen.
Now, you have a double door that is of pressed wood that is underneath your new addition. What do you have under there?
Well, this will be, this is a temporary door arrangement. Eventually we'll have 2 doors there that will look like barn doors. And we'll be able to enter there with larger items for storage. And that will be, the whole basement has to be used for personal storage at this point because the portion of the property is in the floodplain. But that will be our major entrance to the basement for this building.
Are we going to get a chance to look at the understructure of some of the things you've done recently?
Sure. Why don't we go inside, and the steel beams are now in place. Okay, we're now under the overhang at the back of the wagon shop. We're inside an area that's tarped off, which serves as a wind protection for the workers again. What we've done here is placed 8 posts that are 5.5 by 6.5 here, and they go up, and on top of the post are huge beams that are 6 by 14. And we've used these in lieu of the laminated beams. They're Douglas fir, they're very strong, and each post will eventually get the shoulders, the sort of the V here, which gives it additional support. These posts are anchored into a foundation which are bolted down, and this concrete that they're on in some cases goes down 4 to 5 feet that we had to dig out for a footing. I don't think this addition will ever get back to the shape it was. This far corner over here, Mike, we went up about 6, maybe 7 inches on the building. Very irregular. Over here along the wall, if you can shoot up, you'll see that we have placed a cleat along the building. And that cleat was necessary because some of the floor joists had literally pulled away from the building. And why this hadn't come down, I'll never know. So the cleat holds the floor joists, and the downward pressure then is on the several cleats that are on the wall. And these will be boxed out and painted, and you won't even know they're there. They'll look like posts. But we did have a problem of getting this thing level. The east side and the west side, there was a couple inches difference. So we just very gradually jacked it all the way around. In the top here, we have replaced and some floor joists, and we've used old lumber, and the bottom is light in color. And the reason you try to get old lumber with old lumber is that it's already shrunk, and you don't have the shrinkage that you have when you put new lumber with old, and that can cause you problems later down. And this floor up here had been cut, and apparently at one time that had been a door where they pass things down to the ground, because there's hinges upstairs, and they had boxed it out, and it really had weakened the whole understructure. So what we've done is cleated the old joists with old joists and bridged that gap now. This area here will be used, we'll have this hard surface in some fashion, but we plan to have the trash containers here. We'll probably put the compressors for the air here underneath, and the outside, certainly portions of it, maybe the whole thing, will have a lattice work around it, so it will sort of hide the service function that this area will serve. Okay, maybe we should go inside now and take a look. Okay, we're now in the basement of the Wagon shop, and the noise you hear is the workmen upstairs working. If you hear some hammering, that's all part of the progress of the building. We're in the basement, and this basement we needed to shore it up, and we needed to put two large I-beams that are roughly 24 feet in length in, and we have now accomplished that with post, and that was the beginning of getting the sunken feeling out of the floor. The two I-beams, we're looking at one, and the other one's to my left over here, and they are welded together with a metal flange up against the wall near the top. And that holds that wall in place that we poured, and that's on the earlier shots of the building. That's all welded together. And here we've been able to save the old beam. Instead of trying to take the old beams out, they were well nailed by from the floor and the joists into them. What we have done is that we're going to leave them in place. We've put a metal piece at the bottom in here as we're coming down the beam. And you'll see it like a screw jack. This will be formed, and there'll be another 18 inches of concrete poured around. So that screw jack will stay right in the permanent concrete. And we're using the spread footing here rather than cutting in the floor. It's a time-saving device technique, but we also found that under the old post there was footings underneath there by drilling before we elected to do that. Eventually this gets a whole new floor, and so the floor will come up at least the first step of what we're looking at. Some of the posts that we see here, like here, Mike, are temporary posts, and they're holding up the cribbing, additional support for the cribbing that we're going to see upstairs. So these couple wooden posts here will be coming out. They're strictly temporary now. And then we come over to this other large piece of concrete, which is a footing, and there we had the beam that was totally collapsed and rotted in the center. And this is a masterpiece of the way the contractor has done this. They took out about probably a 6 to 7 foot piece of beam, cut it with a chainsaw on an angle, put another piece of beam in its place, and then put two pieces of lumber or timbers underneath it, and you can see the angle cut, and it comes down on another angle cut, and then they put a large board that we found here on this job over the whole thing that ties it together. And again, there is a red steel post which holds up the I-beam, which is right on the other side of the wooden beam, and we're going to leave the big wooden post in place. So there'll be two posts there when we're through. And again, we left the old wooden beam in, we repaired it. And the other thing that we had to do to get the proper pressure per square inch, the PSI, so to speak, we had to double up all the 2x8 floor joists. And there we ran the new ones to one side of the old ones. And where we had to replace the old ones, we did with old lumber, again, trying to get old with old. This was extremely important because the level of the floor is adjusted by the new beams, not by the old beams. The new beams are level. The older floor joists had a lot of twist, a lot of settling and bending from 120 years of set. And in some cases you can get that out, but it can be very, very difficult. So we used the new beams to set the levelness for the floor. As we pan around to the right, we'll be looking at the north wall. And what we have done here, again, we found the old joist going into the sill. We weren't quite sure what the condition was because we can't see the inside of the sill. So we have put a 2x8 cleat along the whole wall. We've backplastered the brick, and you may recall from the earlier scenes, the brick was very porous, and this building had been raised about 2 feet in 1878 when the elevation of the bridge had been raised. So that's now all been backplastered, and wherever we have on the project wood in contact with concrete, we have used treated lumber. And so that should be in good shape for years to come. But that really supports that front of the building.
And now, did you have to raise the building the amount of the cement we're seeing above the stone? Did you have to do the raising? It was already at that level.
It was raised in 1878, but the brick that they had used became very porous, and a lot of the mortar was missing, and there was actually big gaps in there. So from a weatherproofing and structurally, you would want to backplaster this, and plus it looks more aesthetically pleasing. So the other post you're looking at is the third post in the basement that will support the front part of the building. One of the things we found in our plans and the way they were designed originally, we had an I-beam upstairs that went to the full front of the building, and that became in conflict with the front doors and windows. So we had to back that away about 4 or 5 feet, therefore causing the need for this additional post in the basement, because now we'll have 3 wooden beams, 3 wooden posts on the first floor and not 2 as we had originally anticipated. And where you have weight coming from the second floor to the first floor, you have to support it from the very beginning in the basement upward. And that's what that post has been added. And it cuts across 4 different floor joists.
Where do you want to go now, Jim?
Well, let's go up on the first floor. They're working, raising the second floor. They've removed a lot of the floor joists. Again, we've got that problem with tremendous settling because of water damage, and there was an awful lot of cracking of the floor joist, twisting, and we have made a decision to remove that whole floor and come back in with new floor joists.
Okay, so our next move will be up to the first floor.
Yes. Okay, we're now at the base of the slight incline at the back of the building, and we're looking at the wagon making shop. And this is a south elevation, and again, you can see where we have roughed in the 2 doors on the first floor, and you can see half of a window roughed in. It is roughed in, we just haven't cut the boards off. And to the right of that is another window. So there's 2 windows between the 2 doors on the first floor. And up above, there are 2 windows already roughed in. And again, all the different color woods, the lighter color woods are a replacement that we have taken the old rotted wood out.
However, again, repeating that is old wood that you are using.
Yes,
You're not using any new structure wood.
Right. We're trying to recycle as much as we can, and the wood you have seen here has come off interior walls at one form or another. And as you go up the incline, there's also another large patch of recycled wood. There was an old double door there. Might also say that we're very proud of the pipe sticking out of the upstairs window. That is our replacement drainage system from the roof, and it's working very well. The water really just pours out of there. Before we had just plastic sheets, and there is major work to be done on the roof, and we're trying to keep the inside as dry as possible.
Let's mention as we turn to the blacksmith shop a couple things that might be missing from the last time we were here.
Okay. We're now looking up the driveway, and as you're scanning to the left, you'll see a couple angle braces from the building coming down, and that is just strictly a safety precaution so nobody walks off. Beneath that is a flat level deck, which is the floor of the new blacksmith portion of the building. We got as far as the deck this year, and we look forward to rebuilding that addition to the building. Down below, our wall is completed. Our opening is boxed out. We're ready to make the doors. We have poured the cement floor in that building. It was poured about the middle of December, and we've had a lot of temporary heat here using the bottled gas and leaving the burners on for extended periods of time.
Now, I'm looking at some rock over here at the left. Are you going to be placing that rock back against the wall?
Yes, they're going to, once it warms up a little bit in the spring here, this is a nice sunny location, and many of these stones, which came out of the wall to begin with, will be recycled, and where you see all the concrete block now, that will all be um, stone in front. It'll be a stone veneer of about 6 to 7 inches in thickness. So once they get through with the wagon making shop with all the jacks and all the cribbing, then they'll move over and we'll tackle this building to the left, which is the 1846 blacksmith shop. And this building at some point will look very naked because all the siding on both ends come off and off the back, and the roof will come off before we start jacking and squaring it away.
Is there a reason why you are going to dismantle more of the blacksmith shop than you did with the wagon shop?
Yes, part of it deals with the method of construction. We have in the back of the blacksmith shop over the doors here, that base sill sags in the middle about 2 inches downward, and it also protrudes out from the building about 5 inches, 5 to 6 inches. And we have to take the siding off to loosen up the walls so that the building can be jacked around and we can get it back in its proper position. This base sill, I believe the plan is that it may have to be cut 3 or 4 different places and pushed back into place. And we can't do that with all the siding on it because that has a tendency to keep the building extremely rigid. And we have to get the building where it moves a little bit. And in the wagon making shop, the siding needs to be re-nailed, and it will be re-nailed before we put the battens on. But we won't do that until we're through the jacking because we need it to give a little bit. And so when it comes to the blacksmith shop, as we undress the building, so to speak, it's to have it lose its rigidity. Okay. And that will only be for a relatively limited period of time. Okay, we're inside the wagon making shop now, and we're near the street on the west side, and we're looking south. And what we're looking at is the reconstruction of the second floor. This building has had to be jacked up, and we're installing a large 8-inch I-beam, the full length of the building. And 2 sections are now in place. They are bolted together rather than welded because we're afraid of fire in the building. What the posts are resting on, temporary posts, are what we call cribbing, and we've seen that earlier, and we keep moving this cribbing around to where we need it. You will see several posts going up from the cribbing, and as we go upstairs on the second floor, you're going to find that these posts are actually holding the roof up at this point. These floor joists above us, ceiling joists if you're looking up, floor joists if you're looking down, the old ones were very twisted, broken, rotted, and again, a degree of unevenness that we just felt we could not deal with. So we've made the decision to put a whole new second floor in. If you can see here, if you can swing around a little bit, we're looking at the front third of the building with the old joists, and there is, if you look at the right angle, there's some dipping going on and twisting, and the beam in the middle here is a homemade job. And in fact, if you can swing around a little bit to the left, you can see at some point they chopped part of the major supporting beam off. And so we will have a post right at the end of that, which is above the post we saw downstairs. And then the front part of that will be a laminated beam going to the very end of the building. What we're also doing, these floor joists, the old floor joists, are 16-inch on center. And what happens when you have that and your wall system is a 12-inch on center, it's a 2x6 12-inch, every third floor joist just hangs there. It's not nailed to anything. And you can actually see how that has actually sagged over the other ones. And so by going to the new floor joist, 12-inch on center, we have corrected that problem and eliminates a very serious structural deficiency that's now in the building. To support this, you can see that we have a number of temporary posts and jacks in this immediate area. And this is really, we're very concerned about this given area because there is a long metal rod near the top that comes along, which is called a Kingsman rod. And it has a turnbuckle in it. And the whole idea of this Kingsman rod, which you'll see in a lot of older buildings, is to keep the building from separating, hold the building together. And we're very concerned that this does not break, because one of them have already broken at one time or another, and we've removed that. But we don't want a banjo effect here and have somebody seriously injured. And so there's a lot of stress on the building right at this point, and we have dealt with that stress with a total of 7 temporary posts in this immediate area. And it all ties together with how the building was originally put together. I think maybe what we need to do now, Mike, is to move in the other and look at the other portion. But you might want to swing at the front windows just for a moment. We have now made a decision on the windows throughout, and where we need windows, we will be using the Marvin window as the replacement windows. But the front of the building, we have a different set of problems, and that is that they're single pane. Some of them are laminated, some of them are old glass, some new glass. And we're now analyzing a thermal pane which is tempered, and which means that we're going to experiment with routing out one of these old windows and putting a tempered thermal pane in, so we do not have a single pane of glass. So this is going to be an experiment, and we should know where we're going in about 2 weeks on this concept. Very expensive, but where you have doors and with the codes, you must have tempered glass, and so we have to deal with that. We're now in the back part of the wagon making shop on the first floor. We're actually in the portion that's above the overhang where we saw the big post down below. And we're looking to the front, and we're looking at the cribbing and the floor joists that are being installed at this very time. It just shows you how massive an undertaking this is when you deal with this size of timber. And again, you'll see some temporary post here, and that relates directly to the post above, which is holding the roof up at this point. In this room here, we now have this floor leveled, as I mentioned, down below. And it is all roughed in, and you can see some replacement studs with the old lumber. That was where a double door had been located. And these stairs here that you see will be replaced. The new stairs will be in the approximate location, but a little bit to the right. Again, as you look around, you'll see temporary posts. Those posts are all there for a given reason. And again, most of this lumber in the ceiling, we're not having to touch. It is good, usable floor joists. And we have about a 2-inch differential in the height of the floor upstairs where it's sagged to the outside. And we'll correct that upstairs by putting sleepers down before we put the permanent floor down. Let's go upstairs and see what we have up there, Mike. We're now upstairs in the wagon making shop, and at this point, the subfloor is going down, or would be the major floor, and above this 3/4-inch tongue and groove flooring, carpet will be applied directly to it. Coming up through the floor joists, we can see some of these posts that we saw downstairs. And as you focus upward, you'll see that we have temporary beams up here, and this is holding the roof and the ceiling joists, which are very, very close at this point. In other words, this is taking the weight off these posts are holding basically the whole roof structure up on it. Eventually these posts will come out, and as we finish the floor, then we'll bring up the cribbing from downstairs, and we'll go through the same process to get the roof in the location that we need to have it and leveled off. And over to the right, you'll see the pile of huge floor joists that we have taken out. And we will be using many of these in the blacksmith shop, especially in the blacksmith portion of the shop, to give it that older, authentic look. All the openings that you see up here, the window openings, there will actually be windows in. They're all in the right location. So this upstairs, the floor joist at this point in time, 2/3 of the upstairs is done, and early next week they will be taking the floor off over there and putting the new joists in. As we scan, if you can scan to the back here, if you can or not, Mike. We'll be looking at the second floor, the overhang, if you can call it that, to the south side. And we have roughed in several windows now, and you can see where we have replaced the rotted wood. And a couple minutes ago we showed you the recycled wood from the outside. We're looking at the same area now on the inside. We've also had in the ceiling some of the ends of the rafters were deteriorated, and we have solved that problem with putting large replacement cleats that will be very adequate for what we're doing up here.
Those look like 2x12s that you put in there?
Those are 2x10s.
Okay.
2x10s. And the floor here, again, there's a couple inch difference here, and we will get it level by using what they call sleepers. We'll be putting 2x4s down and cutting them on an angle, be 2 inches at one, and they'll feather back to 0. And that's the easiest way of doing that at this point where we are. So this is coming along quite well, and very pleased. And again, as you look at the rafters here, many of them will be are savable. We had to do some repair work, and even in the main part of the building, many of the the roof boards underneath look like they're in excellent shape, but until we take that skin off up there, we really won't know what we have in hand. Mike, this up in here is the plumbing genius creative design of the year with how we're getting water out of this building. This is a 10-inch PVC pipe, a sewer pipe, and they have put a 45-degree elbow at the very top, and it goes right to the roof, and the water goes in there and goes right out the window. Okay, we're now in the new addition to the east of the building into the wagon making shop, and we're actually in an area that will serve as the kitchen. We're looking at the outside wall, and these are 2x6s. It's all new construction. There's tieback on the outside of the wall next to the studs, which is for wind resistance. And then we have the 1/2-inch plywood outside of that. As you scan, you'll see more exterior plywood that's in the process of being painted, over which we put the battens. This is somewhat becoming a paint room and work room. And today it's the eating room. The Hardy crew is at work. You notice above we've got 2x6 ceiling joists, and since we have a very minimal pitch to the roof, it is tied together with the rafters near the center. This is a very long span that we're dealing with.
Now, Jim, you had so much damage to the old building that used to stand here. Is the reason that you ended up taking it all down? Was it a fire problem is part of it?
Well, part of the old addition had a fire right in this corner. You may recall in the earlier portions of the film. There was considerable damage there, and that fire had raced along the outside. So when we got into it, they solved the problem by painting over the charred boards. But the sills were rotted. Every joist, every rafter had been split because of weight loads improperly. And the set had come down and they had been cleated, and we just really couldn't do anything with it. So this was the much easier solution to it. Again, part of the exterior wall of the original building will try to save a little bit of that. Want to say anything? This is your chance. Want to say hi to Mom?
Now we've got this addition is tied on to the main structure, though. I can see that.
Yep, it's right here, and we've put the ceiling joists that have on hangers, and this is cleated into the main wall. So it's very well attached now. And this is the problem with the original one. All they did was put a little cleat up, and it was never really structurally built correct to begin with. And again, recall earlier comments, the addition apparently was put on as a paint room. We can tell that from the amount of paint that we had found on the floorboards. So this will be a very nice room, and when we're through, and again, we save the front facade with these large windows. And again, we'll be experimenting with a thermal pane, which is tempered. There's, I think, 11 doors that we've got to deal with in this fashion. But anytime you have a large construction project like this going on, you need an area like this. Okay? Like we're now still in the what would be the kitchen area of our future use of the building, which we hope to be a sandwich deli type of operation. This is in the new room to the east of the building. We hopefully we'll have this building completed about the 1st of June and in operation. It's a very tight time schedule, but we feel we can make it. It's moving along very rapidly now from a structural point of view, and again, as we finish the building downstairs, we're dealing with large areas and not a lot of partition walls, so that type of work should go quite fast on that. We have awarded the contract for the windows. The layout for the heating and the air conditioning system will be to us in another 10 days. That's another big thing that we have to deal with. We're dealing with the utilities on the relocation of the poles outside. So there's a lot of things going on that you cannot see from the street by driving by. Much of it has been inside and from the rear. But we're very pleased with the progression that we're making here. Today is April 18th, and it's been about 9 months since we first did the first session on the Wagon shop and the Blacksmith shop along the Mullet River at the bridge on Eastern Avenue. We're looking somewhat to the southeast toward the Wagon shop, which is being prepared at this time for Ella's Della, which will be the tenant on the first floor, and Base 2, a computer firm here in town, which will occupy the second floor. As we're looking at the building, we'll now have a canopy over the main entrance to the building, which is on the west side. And this is something we did not have in the original drawings, but we felt that with the weather being predominantly from the west, that we needed some protection. And I think it adds some character to the building. At this point, the battens have been added to the side of the building. The original boards there are original, and the battens are those narrow strips that cover the cracks between the 12-inch wide boards. At the back part of the building, we placed half-inch plywood over the siding there and put the bats on there. The windows are all in. They've all been painted a a whitewash color. The storm windows, which we've taken out for a very short period here, will be an oxblood red. In the front, we have just finished priming that, and the original siding was removed piece by piece in the front, and we put the windows in, and then we put the siding back on. We did have to rebuild the upper soffit area completely. It looks like a speckled chicken now, but that is no more than filling the nail holes with glazing compound and then repriming them. To the east on the addition, there's some green coming through, and that we found that parapet wall to be extremely structurally unsound, and basically that has been partially rebuilt and with a new soffit. And the green boards is reused lumber that we have used. On the lower level, we are rebuilding the complete wall of glass doors. Originally, we were going to have two openings from the street into the lower level, and due to some structural things that we found and code problems with just one step, we have eliminated the doors, but we are completely rebuilding that so that there is a uniform and symmetrical appearance to the building, which it was originally. We found some very interesting things there in the glass, that being uneven size and the way they built it, and a lot of modifications, but basically it's going to be completely rebuilt across the front. So the main entrance to the building will be off the side under the canopy. We're looking directly into the building now from directly across the street, and you can see the rebuilding that's going on the front wall. The four doors to the left on the addition have been placed in a stationary position, and you can see one vertical new board that's been painted a primer and to match the other column. Then we're rebuilding the other ones, and the craftsmen are now working on the third column there. And when we're finished here, there'll be a series of 5 lights across the front at the lower level. And all the windows to the right will be almost symmetrically balanced, and that's taken a lot of doing. This building was damaged on the right-hand side by a truck in the late 50s that had overturned into the corner, and that corner of the building had been rebuilt, but without any regard to what had been there. It was sort of an expediency type of repair. On the second level, you will note some squares. Those are electrical boxes, and what we've done here is to try to program and think through where the sign for the building will be located. It will be above, at this point, above that little canopy and below the windows, and it will be an old-fashioned looking type of sign. We have gone through a number of the old photos that Alan Pape has assembled 4 signs, and we're trying to keep to that theme on it. To the left of the building will be the deck area, which we'll talk about in a few moments. We're now at the rear of the wagon shop, and the rear has been finished now except for the catwalk that goes along at below the doors or in back of the doors. There's a piece of lumber there, raw lumber, and that's treated lumber, which will be part of the catwalk area. There will be steps to the left, 4 or 5 steps going down to grade. You will note that we have several lights on the building above the doors. These are security lights. There are 5 of these around the building, and it's very well lit up at night. As we go up, the rain gutter has been installed, and at the very top Above the rain gutters at each end, you'll see a small parapet wall, which we'll talk about later and how we did that. The rain gutter to the right may draw someone's attention with the downspout being as high as it is. But we had our temporary electrical box there the last time we photographed this. And we put the elbow on there just merely to get the water away from the electrical box, and now the electrical has been removed. It will be lowered. We had to do some very interesting measuring to get the right lines, the horizontal lines, across at the top of the windows and below the windows, and cut our plywood accordingly. This is plywood with the battens added on top. And this part of the building, the addition that was added around the turn of the century, the stud work inside is 12-inch on center, and therefore our battens are accordingly. And as we look to the right, another security light with a ladder to it. If you come back this way, you'll see the big post that we're holding this back section up with the wind bracing, the angles. And we'll eventually close this area off partially with lattice work, and underneath here will be the dumpsters and all the compressors. We have 3 heating units in the building and 3 air conditioners, plus a makeup unit for the kitchen duct. So there'll be basically 4 furnaces, and we have a large freezer coming in, so there'll be an extra compressor. But the general public should not be able to see this to any great extent. We're looking to the northwest from the back of the building, and we're looking at the large doors that we made underneath the ladder that allows us to go into that part of the basement. To the left of that, you'll note our electrical setup and the size of the pipes that we have to have for this restoration. I think also you can note on the windows above the electrical meters, these windows still have the storm zone in there. There you pick up the oxblood red, which will be the accent color for the building. Right in the corner above the electrical meters, we will have a large makeup unit for air for the duct. So there will be some duct work hung on the outside, but we're going to try to do the best we can with paint to disguise that. To the right, along the wall, there's a large piece of treated lumber, 2 pieces, and that's going to be the length of our deck, and it will come out at the far end about 4 feet, and then it will come on an angle, and then it takes another angle and comes down to this end. We'll have about a 350 square foot deck here, and all the trees will be saved. In fact, the birch will be right in the middle of it. In the foreground, you will see a pile of lumber, and this is our decking material. In fact, the deck will be a redwood deck with cedar spindles and post with treated lumber supporting it, which will be 8x8 and which will be 6x6 and will match the other post with the wind bracing. So there's a continuity element here we're trying to maintain. But the deck should be a very pleasant experience for people for eating. You will note in the foreground a lot of debris, but that's part of the construction, stones, what have you. The one big item that is no longer here, which if anybody has missed or not, is the old Hi-Ho truck body. And I'm happy to announce that that is resting very comfortably on a farm near Cascade, and will probably survive many, many years before the words Hi-Ho disappear from it or rust out. On the upper level here, above the addition, which is basically all new except for the very front facade, above us, again, is the original boards, siding that was on the building, and what we've done is added the battens, and it's been primed, and there's a lot of cracks and nail holes that have to be filled up and primed again before we put the color to it. A lot of little detail work that's got to be done. The outside security lights are on a not motion, but a timer and a light sensor. It gives a nice soft yellow color to the whole building. Where this debris is in front of you will be our major parking area, and by the time we're through we should have about 13 to 15 spaces in the back here for parking, and you'll be able to enter from Eastern Avenue and exit under the Old Century ramp, but you will not be able to exit back onto Eastern Avenue. It will be an entrance only.
Let's just talk briefly, Jim. I'm going to just turn towards your very large rafters that you've taken out. I know where those came from, but our audience will not. And then I'm going to focus to the beautiful setting that we're standing in. When this is completed, there's going to be a quiet, beautiful setting. So I'm going to come across that.
Okay. As we're scanning the trees, we will do some pruning, and there's one tree there with the yellow ribbon on, which will come out. It's in direct conflict with the evergreens. It's a very pleasant setting with the spruces, and directly in front of you is a large pile of timbers, and we'll be storing these. This is timbers that we had to purchase to form the cribbing to jack the building up, and a portion of this building that we've been viewing, the back portion, we have raised the first floor about 22 inches, and second floor we completely removed, and then we had to raise the roof about the like amount. So we had a tremendous amount of jacking going on, and we needed this cribbing to place the jacks on. You crisscross this for the cribbing that we saw in the earlier sessions. There's no use throwing this lumber away. It will be used someplace. It's Douglas fir, and so that's where that comes from. There's a bench here that's been damaged, and the back is off, but we'll restore that. I'm told that this is the original bench that was at the Plymouth Utilities, and they have thrown it out, and an individual salvaged it and restored it, and so we'll make use of it. Whether it will be faced that way or not is another question. You can also see we have thinned out some of the debris along the river. There's a nice row of cedars here, and we'll still need to do some underbrushing so that one can see the water, but you're really right on top of the stream right here, so this should be very pleasant to for the general public to take in this view and to experience it. You know, the water belongs to all of us, and I think maybe what we're doing here will help overall to keep the river well maintained and perhaps improve its quality and appearance throughout the community. At least that's our hope. Okay, we're inside the one of the eating areas for the deli now. It's in the addition, which is a new part of the building, except for this west wall, which is the original outside wall of the building when it was built in 1874. And what we've just recently done is primed it, and you see the batten strips leaning up there. These will be reinstalled, and so we'll be retaining a flavor here that was here in 1874, and we believe that's important. We are saving approximately, I believe, it would be my guess that we may be retaining maybe 35 to 40%, and may even be higher, of the original fabric for this building when you consider the outside walls, the floors, the subfloors, the sheeting on the roof, the original walls in the basement, and that type of thing. As we're looking through a window, an opening here, which was an outside window, and we will be putting that back in. So you'll be able to see from one room to the other. As we go to our, if you can shoot upward here a little bit, Mike, we'll see the heat ducts that's coming through here. And this is the way we're heating the facility and cooling it. And as we go to our left, we're looking back toward the entrance into this room from the west. And there's a series of two bulkheads here coming down from the ceiling with lights. You can see the shiny part, and then the metal is above that. This will be a large counter where you'll be ordering food. The second series of lights back will be also a counter on which you'll have a lot of soups. And then in the back part where the workman is working, this will be the main kitchen. And you can see we have the rough plumbing in for the sink. And also in there, in that room, we'll have the range and the fryers and other counter space. Now, if the series of lights coming here, if you can pick this up, there's a number of boxes in a row. In fact, there's two in the ceiling. These will be the old-time school lights that would be brass. And that's the way this will be lighted. And then to our left will be the two doors leading onto the patio area. And in this room, by these doors and in the front door behind us, there'll be a series of sconces, wall sconces on it. This has been a very good workroom, assembling room for our saws and lumber storage and this type of thing. And we need it. We're now in the main area of the deli at the doorway entrance into the addition that we just shot. And we'll eventually be looking to the northwest and to the north. And the front wall was being repaired and remade with columns so that the panes of glass, which were formerly doors, were evenly balanced. And the craftsman here is George Cullen, for the record. And he loves this kind of thing. Or at least he says he does. But it is a lot of detailed craftsmen working here that has to be utilized to put this kind of building in the shape that we want it. There are several large posts here in front of us that you see. These will be boxed out, and above the post is we have this large I-beam that goes the full length of the building, which supports the second floor. Again, here in the ceiling you can see some of the heat pipes, and we'll also have 2 rows of school lights in here from a decorating point of view. This room will have wainscoting where we can possibly have it a cedar wainscoting and be drywall above that. The flooring in this building will be hardwood, and it will be hickory. So that's sort of an unusual wood that we have purchased. The addition to the building will have a recycled maple flooring. So we think it will be of interest. As we come around, you'll pick up a window there behind the plastic, and that you'll be able to see right into what will be our handicapped entrance and also the entrance to the second floor. Again, it provides us with an element of interest in the building. As you swing around, you'll see 2 double doors. One's open. There will be a foyer in about 5 feet, 6 feet, and there will be another set of double doors, which gives us airspace from an energy point of view. I don't know if you want to continue expanding around. Here, right about here, we'll have plans to have the cash register, and in this area, underneath these lights, will be a large deli case, which will be self-lit. And in the back here is we're looking at a ladder and the plumbing. The plumbing is all for the women's restroom, and there will be a large food preparation table located there. Again, we have the can lights directly on the food preparation table. It's interesting if you shoot at the beam above, all the wiring that's going through. We really have boxed this out, and we're using that as a chase, as a electrical chase. We'll talk about the insulating and the. Ready? We're in the middle room upstairs now in the offices, and as we look at this, you'll see the walls have been insulated between the offices, and we've done this for insulation and soundproofing purposes. Near the top of the wall, you'll see some plastic, and this plastic is from the ceiling insulation. We have now just completed yesterday the rough rocking in of the ceiling, and above that we have a solid or thick R5 insulation, and above that we have the batten insulation in the attic area. The attic here is about 3 feet in the front of the building, and it drops to the back to about maybe 15 inches. So we've had to vary our insulation as we've gone forward, but we've also put in a power fan to pull the air through the attic for ventilation and keep things from rotting out in the future. We might also swing around, Mike, and near the bottom here we have put in a lot of outlets. We have wired this for the future for separate computers or several computer hookups, separate lines in each of the offices going back to a central panel. We think this is the wave of the future, and now's the time to do it. All the ceilings in the offices will be dropped down about 4 inches from what you see, and we'll put in a grid lighting system on that, except for the hallways, and those ceilings will be slightly higher and it'll be drywalled directly on that. Okay. We're looking to the northeast now through the easternmost window on the second floor toward the dam and the mill pond. And it just shows you the kind of view you have from the second floor of this building. We're looking through the scaffolding that we saw earlier on the front of the building. Sort of a unique view. It's also very nice in the wintertime when you see that view with the ice and snow there. And you can actually, when the windows are up and the cars are not there, you can actually hear the roar of the water coming over the dam. Here again, we're looking at the interior of the front office, and you can see the insulation and the visqueening that's over the walls. We do not need visqueen between the offices, but on the outside walls, you must have it. Again, there's a lot of wiring here, planning for the future. The upstairs has its own air conditioning and heating unit, and it serves these rooms above the ceiling. Okay. We should get hazardous pay for this.
Yeah, here we go. We're on.
Ready? We're now on top of the roof of the wagon making shop, looking toward the northeast, toward the mill pond and the dam. The water's really coming over since the river's slightly high at this time of the year. We're scanning the office building and the home that's owned by Chuck Gibson. You're going the other way? Okay, we're going to pan the Dr. Richter's building, and we're coming right around, and we'll be looking right in the treetops, underneath which will be the deck. And we'll shortly be able to see the bench down there that we had shot earlier in the river.
Okay, we're on the roof.
Okay. Do you want to talk about the roof now? Or you want to finish scanning?
No, we can do the roof.
Okay. This is a rubberized roof, and I'm going to ask Chris Putz some questions because he was the lead craftsman that put this rubberized roof on. If you succeed here, Chris, you'll go on to Hollywood. Do you want to explain some of the things you found up here, or what was the problems that you had uncovered?
First of all, looking at the side on the parapet walls, a lot of them were badly rotten at the top, so we wound up having to open up and rebuild. And getting into the roof surface on the back fourth section, we were able to go over the top of the existing sheeting boards, but on the remainder of the roof towards the front and where we're standing now, we had to remove all of the old roofing materials. Anywheres from an inch and a half up to as much as 5 inches thick, where different people had tried to patch in holes and build up the roof to keep the water from ponding in the center as the building was settling over the years. All of that's removed. The roof is brought back up to the height that it was originally constructed, and then we added a layer of felt paper to prevent any moisture from entering up into our system from the underside. On top of that, we ran a layer of 1/2-inch roof sheeting material, basically to give the structure some strength, and any places that boards may have been questionable, to be sure we had a good surface for screwing into. Over the top of the roof sheeting, we then put a layer of 1/2-inch thick fiberboard, high-density fiberboard. That gives a little bit of cushion underneath for the rubber roof to lay on. As you can see, the 3-inch round dimples in the roof, approximately every 16 by 16, those are a steel washer. Each one has a screw in which fastens the sheeting material down, therefore eliminating any nails working their way back up through the surface. A roof like this should be expected to last a minimum of 25 to 30 years, and with the amount of pitch we have on this one, we're probably looking at closer to 40 years.
What is the pitch?
It's pretty close to 1 inch per foot. If you look at the height of the end of the wall, you're around 3 foot, and up at the front we're just about come up even with the parapet wall. Basically that's 44 feet and about 3 feet, so not quite 1 inch per foot, and that's plenty for a rubber roof. The idea behind the rubber roof is as long as you don't have water setting on it within 48 hours after any rain, that's how they recommend being done. So if you don't have enough pitch for that, or if you have any low areas, you should build them up, and that's just what we had to do in the center where you see the 2 vent stacks coming out. The one closer to us is the plumber's vent stack, and the further one is the intake and the exhaust for the furnace. In that area there used to be a chimney coming up through, and that was the lowest area of the roof, and if we would not fixed it up and built it up underneath, we'd probably have a chance of some water sitting across those seams there. The other 2 units you see there, the galvanized metal, those are intakes for our roof exhaust. It'd be our roof ventilation system. Over this way, you'll see the exhaust fan, which is now operating. That's drawing the heated air out of the attic space and replacing it with fresh air coming in through the intakes. There is also 5 more vents that are located up over the top of the front wall on the underside of the soffit. and those will also provide some intake air from the front side.
Now,
So
this whole roof is glued down. You put the glue on the boards underneath as well as on the roofing material?
Yeah, when the rubber material was applied, we used a bonding adhesive. It's similar to contact cement, which was put on with a roller. The roof surface, the fiberboard, as well as the back side of the rubber gets glued. Wait approximately 15 minutes to a half hour for it to flash off. And when you mate the two surfaces together, that's where they stay.
And then there's a special tape on the seams. That's
all of the joints you see on the flat roof surface are done with a 3-inch wide butyl tape, and that joint is stronger than a joint done with standard rubber-to-rubber glue. On the side walls, on the parapet walls, we used a rubber-to-rubber glue. On those, because of the angles and the different amounts of lap, you should have 6 inches of lap on your wall surface minimum, whereas on the flat roof surface, 3-inch is adequate.
Mike, you might want to, while we're up here, take a shot at the next building, the Blacksmith. Take a shot at the Blacksmith building, and you can see that roof has a little sag, but again, that roof will be completely removed, and we'll put a gable roof back on. It's in pretty bad shape over there. And as we swing around to the right, you'll get an excellent view of the Plymouth Center, looking down on it, and it looks like Nancy Smith is putting up the open sign for today. And as we continue around, we pick up the Plymouth Inn, and we sort of swing around to the white building to the right of the Plymouth Inn is the next oldest commercial building in town, the Dan Weary store, which was originally located along the tracks where S&R is now located, was moved up here in the 1859, I believe was the year, and served for many years as the meeting hall for lodges and what have you. Very old building. We're right in the middle of the oldest part of Plymouth, the Quickwioc Village area. In fact, the Blacksmith building that we just panned was built 5 years before the plat for Quickwioc was filed. So this is the very, very heart of original Plymouth.
This will kind of end volume 3, I believe, Jim, of the restoration here. It's a never-ending process, so there'll definitely be a volume 4. And what are the next items that we should expect to see on our next visit?
Well, we hope to have this building completed and tenants occupying the building, and that should be in about 6 weeks from now. And at that point, we'll have the other building started on the major outside work to be started. And there's quite a bit there to be done before we'll see any noticeable changes. Well, we're back at the Blacksmith shop and the Wagon shop, the old Lungyard properties on Eastern Avenue where it joins with Mill Street. We're looking just at the finishing front of the Ella's Della, the wagon making shop. We have their sign up now, or one of the signs that gives some direction where the entrance was and the parking is located. And as we swing to the right, on this side of the driveway, we come to the one-story addition to the Blacksmith shop. And from what we know, this was added to the original building, or this same type of, same dimensions was added to the building probably in 1853 when the Swartz family bought the property from the Smiths, and the Smiths had just owned it a few months, and they had acquired it from the Flints, who built the building. So that's the original pitch that was to the building that we could determine. And now we're looking at the major building itself, which is along a Greek Revival line. The windows are equally spaced in the building, and the one missing element now is of course the front door, but it will be a door with 6 lights in it, with a wooden bottom or a metal bottom. And right above there's a dark line, and that's the siding that the workmen are putting on right now. That needs to be done. Directly over the door there's a piece of wood, and that once that's painted you'll be able to see the relief lines, and that again is a very classic Greek Revival treatment that we're doing. A lot of carpentry detail on this building to get it back and get the lines. And as we get over on the other side, Mike, we'll look at the cornice returns, and you can really see the Greek Revival influence at that point. The windows are balanced in the front, and the window in the center probably was to a center hallway upstairs at one time, from what we know. But the building now is square, and it's plumb, probably as good as it's ever going to be. The back wall again was pushed out at the bottom about 5.5, 6 inches, and we pushed that back in, and we had a bow where the front door is, and we've gotten most of that out now through the framing and the siding and various other construction techniques that we've used. The roof is asphalt. It's imitation wooden shingles. From a distance you might think it's wooden shingles, but it's not. And right at the very top you'll see a dark ridge line, and that is our source of ventilation for the attic. That's a roof vent, and it's shingles over it, but it's raised about 1 inch there. What we plan to do, if everything works out okay, we'll put probably 3 or 4 lightning rods on top of the building. The roof needs something. Since we eliminated the chimney, since chimneys are not really needed in today's homes and buildings, and that takes a lot of weight off of the floor system and going all the way down into the basement, and plus it saves a considerable amount of money. But we need something up there, and the building would not look right with cupola or that type of thing. So we're going to try lightning rods, and I think that will give it a nice influence. To the right of the building, we still have the section that connects with the adjoining building where all the signs are located, and that will be torn down probably next week. And we have left that up for storage, and also it gives us a nice platform to work on the end gable from a painting point of view and a construction point of view. And we're through with that phase now, so that will be coming down, and I believe what we're going to do now, we're going to modify the plans a little bit and put a staircase on the outside that will come down onto a deck, and then right where the signs are located we'll have a wooden fence, a solid wooden fence that will probably be 6 to 7 feet tall with a gate in it, so that on certain days, if we have a retail shop on the first floor, which would be our intentions, then there could be some activity out onto the deck, and people could come directly onto the deck from the street through the wooden fence.
This does give you, Jim, a good comparison between what used to be and what now is. The last time we were here, you had a skeleton standing up there, and people have probably already forgotten just how the entire building looked. It looked mainly like the only part you have left. And what changes have occurred is remarkable.
It's amazing, Mike, as we listen to people walk by, their main concern was when were we going to tear it down, and why don't you tear it down, and all those questions. Well, we're past those questions now. It's going to stay. But the question now is, what are you going to do with that area over to the right? And so the answer to that is definitely going to come down. It will be it'll improve the appearance of the building to make it a freestanding building, and when we get the outside steps on there, that will tie in very well. And the building did have an outside staircase originally. We know that from the framing inside where there was a door located. So we're really not adding something to the building that wasn't there originally. So it's really shaping up now, and we our schedule, if one is wondering about this, would be to, I guess if we had a goal, would be to have it completely completed by about the 1st of February. And we may be greatly accelerating that for some reasons that I won't discuss on this.
Rather than dwell on things you won't talk to me about, one of the things you can talk about is the fact that we are shooting on a very beautiful late October day here, and the traffic has not let up here in this area, so we've got a lot of cars in our picture. We're going to possibly move to the back of the building, and I know you've done some work back there that we haven't seen yet.
Sure. Okay. We're now in the rear of the building, and the backside now has been completely sided. I might say that the siding is a Western cedar siding, which we have primed with a oil-based primer, and then it gets 2 coats of latex paint on it. So it's not a vinyl siding from a distance. One might think that because it's all white, but the Greek Revival buildings were basically all white buildings, and so we're trying to follow through with that tradition. If you go to the top at the corner of the building, Mike, you'll see the cornice return that I was talking about, which is a Greek Revival influence. It goes back toward the street about 2 feet, and up on that whole area you'll see there's 2 layers of crown molding. There's a rake molding up in there, and a very wide frieze board, which is indicative of a building in the 1840s and 1850s. An awful lot of carpenter details in here to get the building to look right, and then to fit in the trim around the windows into the frieze board, and to make the siding match from side to side has been a real trick. And there's been some fudging where we had to do it to make it work. Now, where you're looking down lower with the brown door that's partially open, that's merely a construction door, and we've just changed the plans to put that door in. Previously, that door opened onto the driveway, and we moved it in, took the window out where the door was, and put it on the driveway side. And strictly a safety factor. We didn't want the door to open onto the driveway, and also for snow plowing purposes that would have been greatly inconvenient, and we're a little concerned about safety. A lot of people have asked the question, why did you start the siding at the top of the building rather than at the bottom? Well, this back side of the building is a good 3 stories high, and from a safety point of view, we had a special scaffold that went across the top, and that allowed us to do all that trim work at the top, the cornice and the frieze board and the rain gutters, and by doing that first, we did not have to raise the scaffold as we went and end up with a lot of holes into the new siding. So it was a matter of convenience, and it was a decision that we made to put the siding on. But normally it's not the normal way that you would do it. And of course, the rain gutters will have extensions on them. They will come all the way down to the ground and come out. And of course, I think now you start to see the influence of the stone wall. I believe we showed that in the last segment. But there's, in this stone wall, there's 10 mason days putting this stone wall up. In other words, a skilled journeyman mason spent 10 whole days doing this. Now, where the basement door is now temporarily located, it's not temporarily located, but it's just temporary closed up and a temporary door on it. That will get a large, actually 2 doors that'll be 4.5 feet wide and 8 feet high, and that will be a crossbuck pattern. So as you look at it, it'll be a X on the door, 2 big doors that open up to allow us access to the basement. And then there'll be a driveway coming out of that. And then right directly in front of us, we see some large stones, and we're off on quite a drop-off here. And early next week, we'll be starting to put a very large retaining wall, probably several levels of terracing in here to hold the driveway into place. And that's the purpose of the large stones that are located on the site, if anybody's visited the site. I might say on the stone on the wall, those stones, all those stones came out of the original foundation, and we pressure washed them and cleaned the mortar off of them, and some of them had been painted, and the pressure washer took all that work off. So that's original fabric that we're looking at here. Alan Pape was here this week, and in his little methodical way, he walked through the building and came out and he says, well, I just counted 112 pieces of original timbers in the building. And I said, did you count the stone? He said, no. I said, well, you got to count the stone. So there's more being saved here in what meets the eye, especially with the new roof and so forth. And this is really a reconstruction of a building, of what the building looked like. Where the other building was more of a restoration, this is more of a reconstruction type of project. And we kept the superstructure, the main beams and posts in the building, and worked from that. And again, one of the reasons we had to take a lot of the stud walls out, they're in the wrong location, and they were oak. And there's no way you're going to drive nails into oak or put drywall screws into it. So there were some reasons to take it down to where the level that we did. Should we go inside and take a look? And also, before we go in, you might swing over to the far left, Mike, and you see we have our electrical panels in, or the box for them, and that portion to the left there will be torn down, and we'll be locating our compressors and some of our utility core things that we need, telephone box. They'll be around the corner, so that will be out of sight and underneath the deck. Very similar type of method of hiding as we did in the wagon shop. Okay. We've got a lot of questions on these. We're looking at the door that we're going to be entering in a moment. It will be the back door. And this door will open out onto about a 6 by 12 deck, which will be a nice addition to the building. It also provides us that safety factor that we had talked about earlier. The gas meters will be located on the deck, and we'll be able to paint and sort of disguise those. As we shoot upward toward the top there, you'll see a lot of things sticking up in the air like spikes. We've had a lot of questions raised. Is that to hold the ice, or what are those for? Those are no more than the gutter straps. And once we get everything painted there, then those will wrap underneath the older what we call the half moon gutters. They're just been up there to be out of the way at the present time. You might note over the windows that we have these little caps with aluminum, and that is to keep that cap, get the water to run off of the top of the window so it doesn't lay there and rot the wood. So that's under the siding on all the windows and doors. You will not notice that once it's all painted, but it's a construction technique so this building doesn't rot out in a few years, but hopefully it'll be around for many, many years to come now. We're now directly inside the back door that we just showed, and we're in what was the addition to the building, and this is the location where the two forges were located originally. You'll notice that we are retaining a vaulted ceiling here, and there are 3 big collar ties yet to go across, but this ceiling will be sloped when it's finished. You also note as we go around, you'll see some darker lumber. That is the original timbers in the building with their supports. And you will also note as you go across that they're very uneven. Some of them are sagged, some of them are humped, settled. And this is the problem that you have with an older building. And what we've done here on the second floor, and we've done the same thing on the first floor, though we will not be looking at it from the basement, but we have leveled the second floor by the new joists. And these are not your typical joists. These are the truss. I think they're called TGI truss. They're stronger and they're further apart. They're 24-inch on center, and they're tied into laminated beams, which is right below the siding, the plywood siding there. This laminated are very strong, and by tying the floor joists into that, which we've done with the joist hangers and screws, not nails, but about 2.5-inch screws, we should be able to prevent drywall cracks and settling of the floor above and any disruption. So this should be a very, very sturdy building. The 3 posts in the center are new posts, and we'll retain that. This whole downstairs here will have an open feeling at this point. You'll see the stairs in the background. That will obviously have a wall from a code point of view. But basically, the concept we have for a retail store here, or shop, or shops, is one of an open bay concept, if you will. And so when we get the drywall on, these old beams will show anywhere from about a 1/2 inch to maybe 4 inches in spots. So the old beams will come through, and that will be an accent point, and I think will make the building look outstanding. Because these old beams, if you look up on this one here, Mike, you can see there's pockets, little holes, and those were where the 2x4s went up into the beams at one time. They did not use nails up in there as we would do today. Once you cut those off, they slide right down on you. So it's their technique, and you can also see some of the as marks, which was a tool they used to square off timbers at that time. There's a lot of history in this building. We're now upstairs in the blacksmith shop, looking at the construction, and we now have a ceiling, which is a little bit of a sloped on each side, which this will have. There will be about a 4-foot slope out from the wall, and then the center part of the ceiling will drop down, and it will be a tile, a drop ceiling with a lot of lights in it. And that'll be about 15 inches lower than what we're looking at now. And in that 15-inch space, we'll put our lighting. We will also put all our heating ducts and runs in there, rather than going all the way up into the peak and into the attic with the heating. So that's the purpose of. We're now looking right into the northwest corner of the upstairs, and you can see the corner post and the angle bracing that was used. And the darker wood, again, is the older beams, the superstructure that we were able to save. We do have some of the original stud 2x4s in the wall, and we'll probably put a few more of these back in. We did save them, even though they're oak. If you will follow the purloin, the top beam across, like you'll see very slowly how this dips into the center. It goes down through the center, and again, that will be left exposed with the drywall about a 1/2 inch to an inch back of that. So the front part of the beam, or the purloin, in essence, will be showing. But the way it dips into the center, it bellies in, tells you the problem that we had. We had to build a wall on top of that that's probably about 13 or 14 inches in the center and only about 6 inches on the end to straighten out the building so we'd have a straight line on which to rest the rafters for the building. Both the front and the back wall are along the same lines, so we had to raise it and to straighten it out at the same time. And so when this is finished with several different offices up here, that bow is going to show, but that's part of the character of the building. And it will show people how the building was really put together. See, anything else we need to cover up here, Mike? It's basically it's a 2x6 wall system. This is about 900 square feet upstairs. The main building up was roughly 24 by 41, 42 feet, so it's probably a little bit under 900 square feet. And of course, we have a staircase coming up here. We have an exit door, and you're actually shooting this from the furnace room, which is in the southwest corner. But the plans approved reflect 3 office suites up in here, and that may change as depending on the tenant, whether we have 2 offices, 1 office, or 3. But it's going to be an interesting space, and with the angled ceilings and with the drop ceiling.
The next item that you will do up here, Jim, you're going to do on some heating and some electrical, and then what kind of finish work are you planning? I know you're going to leave are you going to leave some of the beams exposed again through on the second floor?
Yeah, the big dark beams that we're looking at will all be exposed. They'll be anywhere from 1 inch to 2 inches exposed with the drywall, somewhat underneath or over that. Our next step up in here is really to get the heat going so that we can work during the winter months. And the furnaces are located in the building now. And so the duct work and so forth will be starting in the next couple of weeks on that. The flooring up here will be carpeted, and downstairs the flooring will be the way it looks, we might have a little carpeting, but we'll have a lot of hickory flooring, as we did in the deli. We sort of like that hickory, and it's a hard-wearing floor, so well, you probably use a combination. Again, it depends on the tenant and how the space is actually going to be used. It's easy to say you're going to do one thing, and then somebody else expresses an interest in renting the property from you, and then all of a sudden you're making changes. But you have to start with a plan for state approval and to get an idea what you can do and what you can't do. And again, all the heating and air conditioning systems and all the building layout is all done by professional engineers and architects. So you are meeting certain code standards that have to be met by everybody. We're now in the basement of the blacksmith shop, looking at the east wall, which is the original stonework that you're looking at that was located in. We've done some patching on the loose mortar that was found. Above the wall, you'll find 4 rows of very long block, very unusual block. They're a 2-foot long block. This probably went in around the turn of the century at this location. Then you'll also, to the left, Mike, you'll come across a opening, which was a window opening originally, and we've made it into a doorway. And there is a small area in back there, which is underneath the original blacksmith portion of the building. And we've repaired those foundations in there likewise, and that room will be used for storage. An interesting fact on this building that we talked about some time back, and I guess we want to remind people, as we swing around to the front of the building, right to the building, this building in 1878 was raised approximately 30 inches when they changed the elevation of the bridge on Eastern Avenue. This building was down in a hole, and like many buildings, it was raised up, and therefore you have different types of material in the basement wall itself. What we've just looked at is the concrete block, which I think was probably added later. But in the very front, over here, swing around here, we have back-plastered brick. That's all brick above the stone wall. And the direct wall that you're looking at is what I would call as a pilaster. It's an angle that's about 1 foot deep at the top and probably comes out from the wall about 3 feet at the bottom. And we believe what happened here, since it's higher than on each than the brick on each side, that tells us this was added after the building had been raised. And again, if you recall, We had earlier indicated that the back wall at the base beam was out about 5.5, 6 inches. We believe after this building was raised, they realized that the dirt that they had added was pushing this building backwards, and they added this pilaster to stabilize the situation, which they probably did. And now, how did we get this building pushed back 5.5, 6 inches is always a good question. Well, what we did, as you'll see, 2 steel beams here on the ceiling. And these beams now are setting, we added these beams under the old wooden beams that were here. And once we got the steel in place and on these pillars that we have, which are full of concrete, we were able to cut the wooden beam off about 5.5, 6 inches, and we just hammered the back wall back into place. And then we stabilized it with huge metal plates, iron plates at the corners where the beams were located. And as we look up directly, you will see joist hangers, and these are all individually made. Every one is a little different size. And what you're looking at is basically the original floor system here was a 3x10. And that's basically, I say that because some of it is 2 7/8, some of it is 3.5. They're all different dimensions. So to meet the live load requirements today of the code, what we've done is that we have sandwiched the 3x10 original floor joists with 2x8s on each side. And then we have made these joist hangers and have put in, there's about 1,200 2.5-inch lag screws into these joist hangers in the basement. So that keeps it from twisting. And basically what we've done, as we did with the second floor, we leveled the first floor by the new 2x8s that we've put in. So that's how you get the first floor level. You can never get a floor level using the old beams. There's just too much sagging and twisting and turning that has occurred over the years, and you can never get it out. So we now have 2 large beams going north-south in the building, directly underneath the old wooden beams, which we have saved, and we have saved all the 3x10 floor joists, every single one of them. And we might say that when we started, this was a dirt floor, primarily because the wooden floor had caved in and had decayed. So we have now poured a concrete floor here, and we've raised the original floor height here probably a foot, maybe 15 inches or more. We do have some pumps down here, or crocks, that will take the water as it comes in the driveway, if there is any. We do have a French drain system outside that should take care of most of it, but any overflow would come in, and then we would take it back out through the pumping system. You can, as we're shooting around, you'll see a lot of older lumber that we're saving. I'm not sure why, but we're going to be using some of it. A lot of the boards are 12 inches wide. These are the shorter ones that we're looking at, but we also have them that are 14 and 16 feet long. These boards were inside upstairs on the walls that we took off, and what we've now done in the last week, we have power washed them to get rid of the dirt and odor on both sides of the boards, and we'll be using that as a horizontal wainscoting on the first floor between the floor and the window height. So then there'll be a little cap or a little shelf at that point. So again, we're using a lot of the original wood back into the building wherever we possibly can, from wherever we can work it in. But in the meantime, we're trying to store and save a lot of it, and be very honest about it, a lot of times it gets in the way, and we move it a number of times. But it is some very interesting wood. It's very old. It's got cut nails in it. It's got the vertical pit sawed marks that we had looked at earlier in it, and it's worth saving. And I guess also one of our hopes would be that at some point at the museum we could have a display of building techniques that we have found in this building. In fact, we still have a couple of the original doors from on the second floor that we have saved, and we've saved window frames and pieces of beams. And Mike, if you can swing around this piece of timber right here on the floor. This piece of timber right here on the floor would be what I would classify, and I think I am correct. This is probably the oldest piece of timber used in construction in Plymouth. We found this as part of the foundation system, the wooden foundation system, to support the original wooden wall that was in the back. It had been submerged underwater and in the mud since 1846. And so we'll be eventually displaying this timber or portions thereof in the museum for everybody to see. But certainly it is a piece of the original fabric that was preserved through lack of oxygen, being in the water and in the mud. Very, very heavy. There was, we identified about 3 or 4 of these across the back wall, but this was by far the best one. The other one we left in place and just poured concrete around it. Another one we pulled out, but it was greatly decayed. And what they did is they put the wall right on top of that, put the beam across it, in other words. So I thought that was of interest. But eventually we'll have